Good evening. Greetings from Artscape. It is my absolute pleasure to invite as a guest for our Stories of Impact series, Ms. Vandana Gupta. Together we can and we will conquer cancer. With this motto in mind, Vandana set up We Care Foundation in 1994. A cancer survivor herself, Vandana has dedicated her work to emotionally and physically help cancer patients from diagnosis through the journey of rehabilitation and recovery. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Vandana this evening. Thank you so much, Vandana, for agreeing to come to this conversation. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you, Kumalika. You've done so much for our cancer patients, and all your techniques have really been very, very useful. So I'm really happy to be here with you today. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Vandana, to begin with, I would like you to share your personal journey, your story, which is extremely inspiring. I know about it, but I would really like you to share it on this platform because I think that is going to be very empowering and going to give strength and inspiration to many.
Okay. So for my journey, you have to go back to 1993. That's the time when I was diagnosed with cancer. And of course, there were, like 2 years before 1993, there were some complications that I had, and the doctor thought that it might be TB. And I was like, I hope it's not TB, and I don't live in unclean circumstances, and how can it be TB and all that? So that's how all the tests started going on. For 2 years, there was nothing at all that happened. And then in 1993, the diagnosis was cancer. And when they told me cancer, they didn't say it was cancer. They said it's Hodgkin's disease. And you won't believe I was relieved to know that it is Hodgkin's, not knowing that Hodgkin's means cancer. So my husband and I both said, "Oh, thank God it's Hodgkin's." But what is Hodgkin's is what we wanted to know, and nobody came to our aid, and we couldn't ask the doctor because we didn't want to sound too dumb. So we went to a library to read about Hodgkin's, and then it struck both of us that it is actually cancer. And so then the trauma and the anxiety and the mental problems started with it. But I went for my treatment almost like a zombie. I didn't know what was happening. It was like just going there, not understanding what is being told, and taking the treatment and coming. And before I think the result was because of when I had asked the doctor about the treatment and the side effects and other things. He just said he gave me a very highly technical book, which is for the doctors, which told me all about the medicines that I was going to have and the side effects of those medicines. And the side effects were such that my heart, my liver, my spleen, all my organs were going to fail. And as it is, people always told me that, oh my God, you've got cancer. Now there's nothing that can save you. And I was like, nothing really can save me. And these medicines are going to give me 101 side effects. So why am I taking it? So it was really like, going to a slaughterhouse every second Friday of the month and taking the treatment and coming back. And it wasn't a very nice feeling. The side effects of the treatment were tremendous because, like I would spread ice on the floor to lie down on it so that the heat from my stomach could go out. And it was that bad. And or there were times when I just wanted to commit suicide, and I would tell the doctor, so the staff in the house to keep the windows closed so that I don't get tempted to jump out. Or when I would see my children were in class 10 and 12, at that time. And if I saw them standing nearby and just looking at me, and I would think, what is the emotion that is going through them? Though they knew everything about the disease, but the face that they had and the expression that they had always made me feel that they're actually maybe thinking that their mother won't be there for very long. So all these emotions went on. My husband turned gray overnight because it was such a shock for him that I think that affected his health. uh, Everything about him changed completely because of my diagnosis. In fact, the whole family attitude changed because we were very happily settled into our life, doing very well for ourselves. The children were happy, everything was going smoothly, and suddenly there was this big speed breaker which broke up everything in our life and in our life pattern. The good part was that the family was extremely supportive because they would be there, they would understand my needs, they would understand when I didn't want to talk to them, or they would understand when I wanted something, so that was a good thing. The bad thing was that whoever came to me always said that oh my god, you've got cancer. So they came to see me because they wanted to see a what a cancer patient looks like, B, whether I was going to survive or not. And, Komalika, it was so strange that before my chemotherapy, somebody or the other would always ring me up and tell me, something, we heard that so and so passed away because of chemotherapy. Or they would say, chemotherapy mein aisa hota hai. And, it was like, again, scaring me because as it is going for the chemotherapy was a big trauma, but scaring me for the because of the side effects was even worse. Some of the things which really hurt me or which really sort of made an impact on me was my loss of hair. The first time when my hair began to fall, it was coming out as if it had been pasted on my head and it was falling in my hair. You see these advertisements saying that my hair fell like this and you have the strand in your hair. It was something like that. That and The whole dustbin, the big dustbin, got filled with hair. So that was something very very traumatic. And the pillow would be covered by hair because of the chemotherapy. The hair was falling. So that was one thing. Another thing which really hit me or had an impact was that my mother passed away during that time. And I think it was the shock of my having cancer that, so I always feel that, one of us, I mean, somebody had to take on that brunt, and probably she took it more than I did. And I lost my mother during my treatment of cancer. So that was and I'm glad that I went to see her because initially I was not going to meet her, but my brother said, before you start losing all your hair, come and see her because she may not be able to bear the shock of seeing you without hair. And that's the reason I went to meet her. And I'm glad I did because that was the last time that I met her and I never saw her again. Also, there were many small incidents which would happen. Like I remember my niece and my nieces and we are extremely close to each other. And normally, whenever we were laughing around or doing something, we suppose we bought an ice cream. The natural thing was that we'd all share it together just for the sake of it. And when I had cancer, and again the same thing happened, the ice cream came, and like automatically my niece pulled her hand to take my ice cream, and I almost pushed her aside to say, "No, you can't eat it." And for both of us, it was traumatic because she also had tears in her eyes, and I had tears in my eyes because then the realization hits you that you have cancer and now you need to be careful. So it was a very, very emotional journey till such time, I met a lady who had cancer. And she came to see me in spite of my not being very fond of meeting people who have cancer. I mean, meeting women. She insisted and she came. She and there was another gentleman who came who had been treated for cancer. And they came and sat with me and they started talking about, like, okay, are you having this? Because if you have this, this is how you handle it. If you're losing your hair, do this. If you have nausea and vomiting, do this. And so before I could even ask them what I wanted to know, they had all the answers to my questions. And that made me feel very strong. That was the day when I thought that it was a good idea for somebody to meet and talk. And I think somewhere it changed my thoughts. And when I went to the doctor next, I said, I'll come and sit here in the hospital and talk to the patients and tell them all about the side effects that you don't have the time to tell them about. And he said, oh, let's see, because nobody comes back once the treatment is done. It's only during the phase of treatment that you think of all these things. But once you are done with the treatment, you don't want to see the hospital again. And I think that is what really became like a challenge. And I think I said, I have to prove this doctor wrong, and I have to do something which will maybe help me help myself and also help the patients. And that is how the whole journey started, about forming, setting up WeCare and doing the work.
Correct. So that was 1993, and 1994 you set up WeCare.
Yeah, because I went to the doctor. My treatment finished in October of 1994, 3, and I went to the doctor and I said, now my treatment is finished, and now you have to let me do the work. And he said, yeah, we'll wait for another month. So I said, okay. So we waited for another month, and then he said, okay, 2 more months. And I was like, what's his problem? He just doesn't want anybody to help out, and he wants to prove me wrong. So I said, you have to tell me a time. He said, then he told me that, normally if the cancer has to come back, then it would come back during this time. And since you have stage 3 cancer, I need to be more careful with you. So we'll give it some time. And so we set a time of February. And I said, I don't want to go beyond February. So that's how February 1994 we set up WeCare. It wasn't WeCare then, it was just one person going to the hospital, talking to the patient, letting them touch my hair, which had begun to come back by then, talking to them, and they would say, "Madam, आप नहीं समझोगे कितनी तकलीफ होती है," and I would say, "नहीं, मैं समझती हूँ क्योंकि मुझे भी ये हुआ है," and how everything would change the moment I said, मुझे भी हुआ है. They, I became a part of them, so they would talk more and all that, and gradually more people came in. Initially, we had named the organization COPE, saying coping with cancer, but there were some technical issues in that, so we had to change the name. And Mr. Shobha Day wrote an article, a small little thing in the Sunday midday she used to write, which was called Cause of the Week. And in that she had mentioned, because she used to live in the same building as I did, and we were walking up and down the lift together, and she would tell, ask me, and I said, this is what I plan to do. And she wrote about it. And there were some people who came, and our core committee was formed. And so the organization really started in a big way after that.
Fantastic. Congratulations once again, Vandana. It is so heartening and so inspiring to hear what you have done. And so Vandana, you are aware that, Artscape as an organization, we are focused on emotional well-being, on mental wellness. And I will once again on this platform share my gratitude to you, because our work for the cancer patients started with your support. I remember the day I went and came and met you, you heard me out, and maybe it kind of you thought that there is kind of merit in this work of using music and using movement and using the arts to heal. And it is with you that I went to ACTREC on the 1st of April 2016. And that's when under your supervision and support, Artscape started the work for cancer patients. And I will
tell you something, Komalika. You may have been extremely enthusiastic and looking at it from a different angle, but for me, it was more like, okay, let the patients get an opportunity to do something different from what they are doing. So this art and music and the yoga and everything that you were doing with them would be like like taking their mind off their active treatment. And that's the only reason I agreed to.
Yes, and also, Vandana, we also look at it as like diversional therapy. Like, because, because their life becomes about the disease and the hospital, and and of course, all the other things that come along with it, the financial displacement, the social displacement, everything. So we also, say that our work is like a diversional therapy, that at least for that 1 hour or 1.5 hours, they are kind of shifting their focus to something other than the disease. And also, you would agree that, I think that, Vandana, correct me if I'm wrong, that, a lot of your recovery must have been dependent on the support that you got from your home. So like you said that, and I think that, today when, we are working with the patients, or you see that, I see how people crave to have a conversation, that at the end of the session now they will say Didi, Didi, and they'll hold your hand and they'll just say the simplest of things. So that's when you realize that people just want to talk. And that also gives me more energy and, the belief that, yes, emotional support is so important for people who are facing such a difficult time in their lives.
Yeah.
Would you, Vandana, what do you think that how much is being mentally strong important in the, course of recovery and rehabilitation?
You know, Malika, I sometimes get a little angry when people keep talking about having a positive effect or keeping a positive attitude towards your treatment, because you don't know what all are the real issues unless
Correct.
you really hear a patient out. So you have to first listen to the problems to be able to tell them to be positive about everything. Because somebody who you are meeting for the first time and you say, आप पॉजिटिव रहिए आपका कैंसर ठीक हो जाएगा, how can he be positive? You don't know whether they've left the children at home, whether they've left a job at home, whether they don't have finances or they don't have a place to stay. And how can a person be positive under those circumstances?
Correct.
So the first thing is the art of listening, that you need to listen to them extremely well to be able to tell them anything. And also that, if you keep telling them all the time about being positive, and a person who has cancer is not able to become positive, they may begin to feel guilty about it. They may begin to feel that, they're burdening themselves and the family because their attitude is so negative. So there's so many things that come in the whole thing, about being positive. I think, according to me, is a very loose statement to say that, be positive, because it doesn't help. Also, I feel that I may be sad, I may be depressed, I may have all my feelings, but how do I convey it to the patient? I mean, how does a patient convey it to the family? Because the family is already overburdened by the fact that I have cancer. So I keep holding everything to myself, so I don't share it with the others. So the opportunity has to be given to a patient to be able to share. Very often what happens is that the patient, the family is so concerned and so overly protective about the patient that, even before the patient can say that I want a glass of water, the glass of water is produced. So that means you're constantly watching the patient like a hawk, whether he wants to eat something, whether he wants to drink something, whether he's not feeling well. Give that opportunity to the patient to ask for things. That's important. If I want water, I know there are people in the house who can give me water. I may want to get up myself to have the glass of water. Like I always say that, he only has cancer. Mentally, he's fine. So please don't treat him as a mentally disabled person or a challenged person. So let him be a part of the decision making. Let him be a part of knowing his illness. There are so many people who don't want the patient to know that he or she has cancer, but and they think it's being protective. But I think it's a conspiracy of silence. You're not letting the patient discuss his problems with the family or with the doctor, or really open out and ask for it. So I think emotional things, become a very big thing in the whole process of treatment and in getting well. And would you say that, if you are emotionally well, all your serious diseases will be taken care of? No, it will only be a way of handling that situation in a better way.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
You can't take care of an illness because you are emotionally strong. You can handle it better. That is the main thing. That difference has to be understood by the caregivers, by the patient, and anybody who's interacting with the patient. Like if I was told that chemotherapy has so many side effects, how many people were really cancer people who had chemotherapy and were telling me, and how many were telling me because they had heard that? So hearing and being in the same shoe are two different things.
Correct.
So it doesn't help to scare somebody to take on the treatment and all that. Also, they have done some research also to see whether emotional well-being really makes a difference in the treatment. And the only difference that they found was in the emotional well-being was that you were a better balanced person, but the outcome was going to be the same. You handled it in a better way to be able to handle the outcome in a better way. And so the family was more relaxed and they could, they didn't have to worry about, oh my God, ab kya hoga? Ab kya hoga? Aisa ho raha hai to kya hoga? But everybody was relaxed. Hoga to dekhenge, jo karna hoga. Either we'll talk to the doctor or we'll take medicines or things are available. When I had my chemotherapy, there was nothing for nausea and vomiting. So before I could reach home, I would start throwing up, which was very, very disgusting because, imagine, and then my driver used to drive fast so that I could reach home fast and all those things that happened. But imagine today there are so many medicines when you don't have that side effect. So if I was to tell a patient, हाँ उसमें तो बहुत vomiting होती है, but it doesn't happen today. So things are changing. So, it is important for people who are talking to them to be realistic about things. To be, I always say that cancer is a serious illness, has to be dealt with seriously, but your life does not have to change in that serious manner. So that is the important part. And we encourage people to come and talk to people like us who are running support groups because we have had experiences of various people of people who may be poor or who may need finances, who may have children, who may have so many other issues. So we can talk about so many things which may affect the mentality of a patient or the caregiver. So that is why it is important to go to a support group. Support group will not help you become better or in your illness. It will help you to adjust emotionally better.
Right. Basically, it'll help you with your attitude. With your attitude, how to deal with the situation. And I feel that, Vandana, you mentioned caregivers. That's something I feel that's a group of beneficiaries who are not often addressed, but I think they need as much attention as the patients.
Yeah.
Because, wherever we are also going for our session, we realize that even the beneficiaries, the patients at least get little attention because of their situation, but the beneficiary, who's the husband to the wife to the husband, or the child and the parent, all of them also, I think they need a lot of attention also, because for them, their life has also got very, very deeply affected. So as you said, Vandana, I also realized that there is no way that one can walk into a session and say that hum samajh sakte hain, because I realized very early on that I think that was a very, very not inappropriate sentence, that to say that hum samajh sakte hain aap kis daur se guzar rahe hain, hum nahi samajh sakte hain. So it is not to slight their, their situation. It's just that, so we tell them that we understand that, there are anger issues, there are anxiety issues, there are fear issues. So we give them little tips like, very simple things that need doesn't need any expenditure, doesn't need a fancy phone or any, just like, using mechanisms that are within ourselves, like breath awareness. Like, just saying om, or just chanting, or just, going for a walk, or just, and now with the mobiles available, just listening to simple music. Or also then there are so many, situations, or we've heard about, social stigma, how to deal with that. That needs talking, that needs somebody to that, ghar pe people are not helpful. So, you've also, so many people have told me also that, I regret, why did I stay alive? Because now ghar pe, they don't give me that recognition. So that is intrinsic, that's in our society, and that's a stigma, that's unfortunate, but true. So it's just that how to empower that person. Kyunki unko to usi ghar pe rehna hai. So we tell them that, do not harm yourself, do not throw things, do not harm yourself, but find a way to calm yourself and stay in that situation, yet stay away so that it doesn't affect you so much. So as you are aware, we use these kind of tools to help them, just to empower them and say that aisa ho raha hai, to aap aisa kar sakte hain. Try it and see if it will be helpful. So that, as you very rightly said, it's the attitude or the approach to the problem can shift a bit.
And also, you know, you can never be in their shoes,
Yes.
because it's going to be different. You can only hear out, help them decide, not take a decision for them, but you can help them in taking a decision. I remember this young child who had come with the hope, you know, after his treatment, that he's going to be 100% cured because all his treatment was over. Unfortunately, at the last checkup, he realized that the cancer had spread, and the doctors told me that he has only maybe a week to live or nothing more than that. And so I had to break the news to the father. And it was difficult to break the news because over the 2 years, we had become attached to the child and the family and everything. And so the father said, you know, maybe what I will do is sell off the whole house and put all the money in the treatment. And I knew very well that that's not going to help. So we sat down and analyzed the whole situation. You know, how many more children he has in the house, what is it that they are doing, how much would he need for all of them, all that type of thing. And after, it took time, it takes about a long time to discuss all this. But after that, he himself said that, nahi didi, I don't think it's a good idea to do this because baki ka jeevan kharab ho jayega. So then your job is done. But I can't say ki nahi aap mat kariye, because for
Correct.
him his child is most important. How can I deprive him of what he wants to do for his child? Because it's not my child, so I can't say nahi aap aise mat kariye. We can only,
Correct.
and it's the same thing for caregivers. You know, often you brought out a very good point that caregivers are neglected. You know, they are spending all their time, they're spending all their energy in looking after the patient. During that time, they feel that if they were to eat well, if they were to look after themselves, then people around, हमारे यहाँ ये social problem बहुत ज़्यादा है. People around would start saying he or she is only looking after herself and not looking after the patient. But unless the caregiver is healthy, both mentally and physically, he or she cannot look after the patient. There have to be opportunities for the patient to caregiver to take a break. We can take turns in looking after. Everybody need not come at the same time to look after the patient. They can be taking turns. They can be, you know, like coming and doing help for some time and going back. The person has, if he has to go to work, should be allowed to go to work. And that is how the whole thing should, you know, be ideally done. Like, for example, I used to get chemotherapy, and, you know, my sister-in-law would come to help me out. And so between me, my husband, and my sister-in-law, we had decided that in the morning, my husband would come with me to the hospital because he was familiar with the hospital. After that, we would come home, and then, I mean, she would time herself in such a way that she reached home before I reached. And the moment she reached, my husband would go to office because I thought it was important for him to take that decision. And because it was a joint decision, nobody felt bad about it. And so that is what, you know, the patient and caregiver have to talk to each other. They have to be emotionally balanced to be doing these things.
Correct. Yes, yes, yes. So that's you know, I think that is this balance, or as you said, that, you know, that it is a serious disease, it needs serious attention, but at the same time that it is not the, you know, you do not from the very beginning treat it as the end of life for yourself as well as for your family. Correct, correct. And so you know, this attitude of as you said, that the approach is what I feel is very important, to be able to even accept or adhere to what the doctor's instructions. That you know, if you can't say that, you know, because my husband is spending a lot of money. I had a conversation with a lady who said that, you know, she was giving up on her medicines, thinking that I want to fasten my exit from this world, because she felt that, you know, she was being a burden on her husband. And the husband ulta is saying that, you know, that see how foolish she is, but you know, somehow from whatever she got triggers from her society or her environment, she felt that just because she has fallen sick, that she is a huge burden, and that's because of her. And so, you know, so I had a chat, and I said, and she was a Bengali girl, and I said that, you know, you've come all the way from West Bengal for treatment, and if this is going to be an attitude, that no doctor in this world will be able to ever help you unless you're able to help yourself. So yes, the attitude and the approach is very important.
There was
For
one incident, which has left such a daunting mark in my life, and I always, I think I talk about it quite often. And that is, that there was a lady who came to my room and she started crying, and I was like, why is she crying? I haven't said anything to her to cry. And she said, and I asked her, I said, what happened? Why are you crying? Are you in pain or whatever? And she said, her father-in-law was also had cancer and was being treated, and she had cancer too. And both were in the same house, and she was recovering, and the father-in-law was deteriorating. So the people in the family were in a, like in a very guarded manner, always telling her that, the lady of the man of the house is going, and the lady of the house is getting better, better. And she said, I've never been able to share this with anybody because I can't talk about it to the family. At the same time, it bothers me to think that, as if I'm doing something by which he's not getting better and I'm getting better. So there can be many things. There was a lady who came to me and she was like so disturbed, and I said, what is the problem? And she said, ultimately after talking with her for some time, because it can't be like a direct problem and you keep thinking what is bothering her and all that. And her husband was extremely unwell. And she ultimately she told me that, I want to know how to reach a funeral home if something happens to him. And she said, I haven't slept for nights because of this, because I don't know what to do. And I can't ask anybody this because they will say, I'm waiting for him to pass away. So I gave her the phone numbers. I told her the process. I gave her my number. Of course, I said, anytime you want, you can call and all that. And then she got everything on her hand. In the morning, she called me up and she said, tonight I had slept really well. Because information, empowerment by knowledge, that is the important thing.
or just a little, Vandana, just a little bit of empathy. Just a little, just somebody to handhold you,
Yeah.
or even if I've seen instances where I have, just kept my hand over somebody's back and I see
Yeah.
tears welling up, so you feel that, oh my God, that human touch, that just a sense of
Yes.
caring and affection can really matter so much to people.
Which is
That's
what we
really,
are missing during this COVID times, because
yes.
though we are talking to patients on telephone and we are trying to understand what they are going through, we are also making video calls so that we can see each other and all that, but that touch is not there. So I think
Right.
for me that makes a lot of difference, because no matter what you say, but I think it's important to be able to handhold, like we always say, we are with you at every step, but
Yes, yes.
only
No,
so
Vandana,
much.
your work has been phenomenal, and the kind of lives that you have touched is like, so what do I say? It's so inspiring. And I know that, you have been also very active and doing a lot of work even during the COVID time. And I just hope that this time shall pass and you are going to be able to physically be at the hospital, because Vandana, a lot of patients have also been very inconvenienced, right?
Yeah, extremely. Because, well, initially they had a problem of travel to come here. Then the accommodation, because if they were already staying, then it was fine. But if there was a new patient, even if there was the place available, they would not take them because of the fear of COVID. And then the markets were closed. So there was no way they could buy anything. So we were trying to arrange for rations so that, patients could get the rations. Like in Actrac, there were almost about 45 families, and there was no way they could get any ration. So there was a
Hmm.
nice person in APMC who helped us in organizing it. But I must say one thing, Malika, during this time, whether it's a doctor, whether it is a social worker, whether it is, people who have the resources, everybody has come together to help out.
Yes.
You tell them a cause, you tell them what you need to be done, and they will make sure it's, like when we said the rations have to be bought, the man in APMC market said, I will help you. So, and the doctor said, once you know that the rations are coming, we will send an ambulance to pick up the ration for the patient. So, everybody was putting their efforts to make sure that the patients were not inconvenienced. And at least in Tata and Actrac and all these places, I know that the treatment did not stop even for a day. Everybody was being looked after. The number of patients coming initially, of course, fell down. Now it has gone up again. Some of the dharamshalas had to be closed. because they became like containment zones and all that. But now things are opening up, but not the same as yet.
Of
But
course, of
yeah,
course.
but it might
Yes,
take some time.
yes, of course. And but yes, Vandana, I also want to say that this last few months have shown people with, you know, what amazing strength people have shown. And not only individuals, communities, how beautifully people have come together to help others. And that's really so nice to know that, you know, there's so much of human goodness and humanity that still exists.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very, very heartening, really. Vandana, before we wrap up, what has been your experience in the lockdown? You tell me. How have you been spending your time other than your work? Because you tell me, how has it been?
So my husband is the one who's most inconvenienced because all his privacy in the house is gone. All of us being there, and initially he could do what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do, how he wanted to do. But now he has the son, the daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, everybody in the house. So he's under like supervision. So he doesn't like that. And one good part that has happened is that my daughter-in-law has learned how to do cooking, which is extremely nice because she knew, I think, cooking, but she didn't want to show that she knows. But during this time, she's been with me and we've been working together, and that's really nice. And we've been able to connect to our volunteers also in a large way, and like either through Antakshari or through Housey, or just talking about with each other. And I think that's been a good thing to do. So
Right,
the connection has been there. We all know that we want to work hard, and we all know we want to bring about some change. But
right.
first, COVID has to change.
Yes. No, but that is, you know, why I asked is that this lockdown has been difficult in many ways, but it has been also been has is leaving us with a lot of valuable lessons as well. You know, I think that the time spent together as a family, as a unit, you with your team members at work, you know, coming closer, bonding better, because on a regular work day that's not possible because people are doing different things. So I feel that, you know, as every situation has two sides, so the
Yeah.
pandemic is also showing us, you know, two sides of the whole situation. And I'm so
So
glad, Vandana.
I must confess one thing, that now I think the fatigue of COVID is beginning to tell on many people in many ways. So, that is something which can create sometimes some mental problems with people. And I think it's important that we keep in touch even more now so that we can talk about it, and we should be openly sharing the issues that we are going through, because almost everybody you talk to, you can feel that there's a COVID fatigue which is setting in.
True. And which is why, you know, Vandana, we have been opening up our sessions, you know, to anybody who wants to, because you're very right, you know, even if people are at home, people are with their families, but there is a requirement for some sharing, you know, with the third party. Or also what is now we realize what is very important is because of the COVID fatigue, because of, you know, people trying to find out new ways to navigate through all of this, what we are understanding, a little time with the self, just some me time, some self-care, some amount of, you know, self-awareness, and connecting with the emotional self is also very, very important. And as you very rightly said, that people need to be in touch, people need to have conversations, you know, because not just over messages, and you know, people need to have conversations and stay
Mm.
together to help each other, and you know, and show their
Yeah.
affection and availability basically. Thank you, Vandana. What do I say? And so inspiring and so beautiful, and to know about your work and to know about you as a person. And shall stay in touch, and I will meet you as soon as this whole COVID thing goes out of our lives.
I'm looking forward to that too, Malika. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks a
Vandana.
lot. Thanks.
Stay well. Stay well.
You
Bye.
too.
Bye.